Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. I have to admit, I'm really looking forward to this panel because we've got an amazing topic and we've got two exceptional speakers here today. My name is Matthias, Bauer-Langgartner. I'm head of policy at Chainalysis. And for those of you who don't know, Chainalysis is a crypto tracing platform, blockchain analytics company. Most of you will know our tools for tracing, investigations, compliance purposes, but we're actually venturing out into fraud prevention, proactive fraud prevention, and also cybersecurity on chain, which we'll probably get into a little bit later. I said we've got two exceptional speakers. We've got Gert here from Europol, and we've got Johann from QANplatform. Could you probably please introduce yourself, Gert?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Gert from Hardeveld. I work as a cryptocurrency specialist at Europol in the money laundering team. I was previously an investigator at the Dutch financial police, and I would like to tell you a lot of different perspectives today, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Johann.
Hi, I'm Johann Polecsak, co-founder and CTO of QANplatform, a quantum-resistant layer 1 blockchain platform, and the director of blockchain technology for MBK Holding. I'll get to that, how these two things combine.
Yeah, so you can see we're going to span quite a wide range of topics, starting with illicit finance. Before Gert, I'd like to get your view on illicit finance and what you actually see also from an operational perspective, from a Europol perspective. I just thought I'll give a quick overview of what we see in terms of illicit finance globally. Here at Blockchain for Europe, we have heard a lot about regulation. Not only in Europe, but actually globally. There is a certain drive towards crypto assets regulation, and more particularly towards stablecoin regulation too. And it has really catapulted also on-chain transactional activity. Back last year, 2024, we've seen record highs of $74 trillion worth of transactions, with roughly half of that in stablecoins. So although stablecoins only make like not even 10% of market cap, it's actually more than 50% of transactional value that is moved. When we think about illicit activity, we pretty much see the same picture. 63% of all illicit activity is transacted in stablecoins, simply because they are a really powerful way of being able to move funds quickly across borders and 24/7. So these types of attributes that are really great for illicit use are also very exciting for illicit actors. A lot of the illicit activity that we see, which actually has plateaued to around $54 billion worth last year, which is a record high. It has been fueled a lot by scam activity, hacking activity, but also by a certain drive of AI-used tech that has not only been sold using cryptocurrency, but also used on chain. And we see a lot of like professionalism and scaling in that space, which is also why, Gert, I wanted to ask you, being part of that operational side on Europol, what do you see in illicit activity on chain? Can you share a little bit of your insight there?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we see actually, surprisingly in a way, so maybe very quick for if people don't know what Europol is, we are the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation. So we get cases from all over Europe and from beyond, and we actually see more and more cryptocurrency related cases. So let's say 10 years ago, we only saw dark web cases or some cybercrime cases, occasional ransomware. Now we see it everywhere. So terrorism financing, you all know about the wrench attacks. But my field is money laundering, and I would say the amounts moved in crypto are really staggering right now. It's basically all in stablecoins, as you already mentioned. And it's from the cartels in South America to oligarchs to Chinese money launderers. Everyone uses stablecoins to move their funds quickly across the world. And in individual cases, we see people with individuals actually that work as over-the-counter desks or in the exchanges, basically, receiving hundreds of millions on their wallets. And in individual cases, we have seen billions. So I would actually argue that maybe the number is even higher than that you've mentioned before.
And we were talking about the scale. Do you also see an increasing complexity in terms of what you see on chain?
Well, funnily enough, I do not. For me, it's actually kind of simple. Well, not simple, but I look at the money laundering cases, and we just see, in a way, the transactions are quite simple. So we see funds, let's say you sell a brick of cocaine in Europe. You have a lot of cash. You find someone that swaps cash to crypto, and then this stablecoin usually can be sent back to South America to pay for the initial drugs. This is what we see quite a lot. So these people that swap the cash to crypto, they basically shield the drug criminal. So these are the kind of targets we are also interested in. So in a way, this is not very complex. But of course, on the other hand, we have ransomware, hacks, where mixers are used a lot. 2 panels ago, it was mentioned that mixers are very important privacy-preserving technology. I have a very different view on that. We've seen it being abused at massive scale by North Koreans for ransomware attacks and many other types of crime. So it's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, that's a really exciting topic. Actually, talking about mixes and this ambiguity between the legitimate need for privacy on chain, but then also the abuse for financial crime. We actually see the same thing when it comes to money laundering. While the predicated offenses are getting much more complex, let's say technology-enabled. Think about smart contracts that are illicit, that are malicious, that are trying to essentially trick a victim into a phishing attack. These types of attacks, or hacking on CASPs, on cryptocurrency exchanges, these types of activities get much more professionalized, but the second part of it, which is the money laundering part, actually stays pretty much the same thing. There's a few patterns that you can follow on chain, and it's actually, thanks to modern crypto analytics, also quite visible. It's quite traceable as well. Maybe, Johann, can I bring you in? We just said that money laundering is scaling. We've also been talking a little bit about ransomware hacks, and we all know that the threat of being hacked is real, and it's often nation-state actors who are behind that. You mentioned DPRK, and they're really sophisticated. To some extent, I even think they are artists when it comes to crypto transactions. Very fast and very efficient in trying to obfuscate funds. When we talk about quantum computing, we're talking about a slightly different set of cybersecurity that I'm typically talking about. When I'm talking about cybersecurity, it's all about hacks and being sure to be less vulnerable. In our view, we even think that because of the transparency of blockchains, what we really need to do is, on top of auditing, we also need to make sure that we actually look at on-chain transactions, because the transparency of blockchains can also show you activity that is very likely going to lead to a certain attack, or you can actually go through a smart contract metadata to understand whether or not the contract is malicious or not. So there's loads of things you can do already with on-chain transparency. Quantum computing seems to be completely different. Is it, just like Gert said, is it something that is very simple and it's just scaling, or is it something completely different? What's quantum computing, and why are we talking about it, and why is it a threat for us?
Yeah, so thank you. Obviously, quantum computing is easy and super complex at the same time, but I think it would be beneficial to separate concerns first, to understand what types of hacks can happen and what affects what and what doesn't the other. So, because there's a lot of confusion in the blockchain space about what kind of quantum attacks exist, could possibly exist, and what these affect. So one common misconception is the so-called store now, decrypt later, or harvest now, decrypt later. So this is which could be typically done by state actors and completely doesn't relate in any way to blockchain technology. It's a common misconception. So this is mainly about, and I don't want to go too deep into this, as I said, it's not blockchain related. This is the fact when there is a malicious actor capturing traffic, could be a state actor, could be your regular hacker. Traffic is pretty easy to capture, and they store this data with the intention of decrypting it later with a quantum computer once these become available. The problem with this approach is that the victims have no way of protecting against this after the fact. So let's suppose there's a live stream of this event right now. as there is, I suppose. Let's suppose this event was secret. Someone would capture this traffic and listen to it 5 years later, although they are not supposed to do so. So let's put this aside. This is not a blockchain problem. The blockchain problem is about digital signatures. So the previous one was data confidentiality. The problem in the blockchain space is authenticity, which means that malicious actors are able to fake other people's transactions. So essentially, they can start spending each other's money. Now, the good news is that even though we don't know what state actors could possibly have in their basements already in terms of quantum computing, they're probably not going to start with breaking Bitcoin wallets and spending crypto of other people. They are much more into the former type of attack. So, yeah, but basically it all boils down that public blockchains are very severely affected by this problem, and there is no viable migration path for public blockchains, basically. So after a point, you either have to make a very hard decision to burn all the user funds who didn't do the upgrade in time, or basically that's it. You cannot be sure who is spending whose money anymore. Because, yeah, cryptography is a very interesting field, so to say, because even currently, so not many people know this, and I don't want to go too deep into the math, but we just suppose that for every wallet address, there is a private key. Actually, like for every wallet address, there is, I couldn't even pronounce the number, but multiple trillions, like much, much more than trillion private keys associated with. It's just the probability that's so small that we just accept this as a fact. Now with quantum computers will be able to compute the one public key, the one private key from the public key they are interested in. It's a completely different beast.
So basically, if I understand you correctly, the hashing algorithm itself is not in danger. It's the signing of transactions that is
correct.
Problem.
Correct. So hashing is also affected, but not by the scale we would be interested in. So instead of, I don't know, many million years of cracking it, it might become 100,000 years. So effectively, the security is severely degraded, but not to the level that we would care in our lifetime. So yeah, hashing is safe still, we can say. It's affected, but still safe. But elliptic curve signatures and anything which is based on discrete logarithm problem is done.
I think we've got quite a few crypto asset users here, service providers, and also people who hold crypto assets. What do you think it's time to already think about that now? What would you suggest CASPs or users should do right now?
Yeah, we just had an interesting talk in the break, and you know, with CASPs it's a bit different because they will be partially automatically saved because they are like centralized operators. They can upgrade their stacks. I mean, they can protect against the store now, decrypt later, like sniffing credentials and decrypting them. Not sure whether that would be valuable in 5 years from now anyway, but this is a little known fact because I see there are still many quantum deniers, so to say, less and less, thank God, but there are still. But if you take a program source code today, like written in the Go language, for example, and you use TLS connections, which is like the basic security for not just blockchain connections, but for all types of all types of connections nowadays, then the default key negotiation protocol will now default to a hybrid post-quantum and elliptic curve key exchange. There is a reason for that. So yeah, as for CAPS, many of their components will be upgraded automatically. This doesn't save them from the wallet problem. So they are effectively signing transactions on behalf of their users as custodians. That problem is not solved, and I don't think it's solvable for public blockchains, as I said.
Okay, well. That's going to be interesting challenges. Well, pretty soon, I guess, but still a little bit futuristic. Let's go back to today's problems. Gert, you said that there's a lot of stable coins involved in illicit activity. You were talking about mixes and the complexity of demixing. Tools like Chainalysis, for example, allow to actually trace through mixes already, and we use a lot of AI to make that possible and decrease the amount of manual work that is needed. Could you share a little bit about how do you go about investigations that involve crypto assets? What are success factors? What do you think about public-private partnerships, for example? Is it important to get the whole ecosystem together to effectively fight financial crime?
I cannot share. No, just kidding. No.
I was waiting for that answer all the time.
It was easy.
No. Sorry, I shouldn't make jokes. Anyway, it's super important. Of course, all of the tracing tools that we can get our hands on, we cannot do investigations without, basically. Or well, maybe in the example I just gave, when it's one transaction, it's possible. But of course, it's almost never just one transaction. So this is one part that's very important. Another part that's super important is our collaboration with exchanges. So we have many exchanges that we as in law enforcement can cooperate really well with. We also have a lot of exchanges that we do not cooperate really well with, so that do not comply with requests, that do not get back in time, that say, okay, even though you have a 100 million hack in, let's say, Germany, our customer that you are interested in is not based in Germany, so we cannot give you any identifying data. And these kind of, we see a lot of different type of responses from different type of companies, and I would really appreciate if there was a bit more open-mindedness, flexibility, cooperation with law enforcement. I guess it's also in the end in the interest of the companies to have a safe space, to have less fraud, etc. So those are some of the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, we also work a lot with private-public partnerships, and what we see is that, as you say, information sharing, especially quick information sharing, is key because funds move so quickly. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is on this way from from detection of financial crime to prevention, is that the technology actually allows us to disrupt crime even before it happens. One of the things that we've done is Operation Spincast as an example, where we were looking for a specific digital footprint. In that case, it was approval phishing. So as I said before, essentially a smart contract that would allow the attacker to drain funds from the victim's wallet. Because we knew how that smart contract looked like, we could actually search for it on chain and find all the affected wallets across the globe. We were then working with, I think it was like 17 VASPs, 19 law enforcement agencies, and also stablecoin issuers together to take quick action. In some instances, we were able to freeze funds at exchanges. In some instances, we were able to recover them from stablecoin issuers. And in other cases, we were even able to prevent those users from entering into those smart contracts that were phishing contracts. And that's, I think, a massive shift from just detecting effectively financial crime to preventing it proactively. And there's a few others that I could do. So private-public partnerships, I think are really key.
Yeah, maybe one thing to add, I think it's very good to have these kind of initiatives. And also, usually when something ends up at law enforcement, it's usually too late. So I think there's a big role to play as well for private partners, for industry. I can think of a few examples where sometimes, measures could have been a bit tighter, a bit better. Like, for example, I've seen a case where one individual on an exchange moved hundreds of millions in one stablecoin, received from many different account holders. And the question is sometimes like, what's the legitimate purpose of this activity? It's just shielding others, or is it? So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like questions could be asked a bit stronger on the other side as well. And I know we are not always perfect as law enforcement, of course, but yeah, that's my take.
How much does prevention play a role at the moment on Europol level?
In my job, not that much, I have to say. I do investigations, but we do have initiatives about how to stay safe online. It's really not my remit, so I don't want to say too much about it. But also, like, of course, publishing about recent trends. This is what we do on a yearly basis in different reports, so it kind of also may help inform people and hopefully prevent attacks or users losing their funds, etc.
I mean, you are doing really, really effective investigations as well. Just this week, Crypto Mixer, three servers have been seized, terabytes of data, and 25 million worth of Bitcoin actually was seized thanks to Europol coordination between Germany and Switzerland. Actually, I just wanted to say you can also use Slido to send some questions to the panel. I've received quite a few questions already. And also a hint that apparently the sound is not working for all the people joining remotely. I don't know, maybe this is something we can fix. So there is a question for you, Johann, already. Given the growing importance of cybersecurity, and I totally agree, there is a lot of focus on cybersecurity and fraud prevention, what role do you see QANplatform playing once the mainnet is live, Johann?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I appreciate it. So a quantum-resistant blockchain platform which enables post-quantum cryptography from block zero enables use cases which can be trusted even in the post-quantum era. For example, why I said that I also have another role, we are rolling out now a program in the state of Qatar where digital signatures are combined with post-quantum signatures as well, because this is not just going to hit the blockchain, but it's going to hit regular digital signatures as well. So like you have a digital contract with a bank about a loan, and then a malicious attacker could retroactively alter this contract, modifying the amount or modifying the maturity. And when you combine this with a post-quantum blockchain like QANplatform or any other one, so don't want to turn this into a marketing pitch, sorry. So any post-quantum blockchain which has quantum cryptography from block zero enabled, then you can bind those digital signatures onto this blockchain and preserve their authenticity. So this really is a game changer because many more industries will be affected where retroactive tampering with digital signatures is a concern.
Do you want to say something, Gert? No.
No, I'm just amazed whenever he speaks. You know, I don't understand. I'm not smart enough for...
Great. I'm just checking if we do have another question here. There is a question around encrypted sensitive data on chain. Let's probably take it slightly differently. So when you, Gert, when you do investigations and you come across, for example, mixes and others, how do you investigate? Is there anything particularly that you would like to highlight or talk about around the use of mixes, privacy-enhancing technologies, or maybe also, you know, the transparency of blockchains as such? Because we often hear, you know, we wish all criminals would use blockchain technology because it's so transparent.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and in a way it can be true sometimes, but on the other hand it's also permissionless, borderless, and we don't live in a permissionless, borderless world. Perhaps unfortunate to some people. So this really creates a lot of friction when money is moved in seconds to Russia or to South America or to wherever law enforcement from Europe cannot reach it. It leads to a lot of issues, especially, let's imagine a ransomware attack where tens of millions are stolen and they're immediately moved to somewhere that it cannot be reached by European law enforcement. This is, of course, very difficult. And of course, I'm not saying that we should not have privacy, or it's just, I have to show the difficulties that it can cause in investigations. And if mixers are used, it leads to difficulties in investigations, and same for other privacy-preserving technologies. It does not mean the end of an investigation, but it can be more complicated for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a race, you know, between illicit actors, bad actors, and blockchain analytics companies, and it has been a race since the last 10 years, like really an arms race. So would you say jurisdictional problems, time, these are the main pain points when investigating crypto assets, illicit activity?
Yeah, and sometimes also, as I mentioned before, frankly, the lack of response that may be received from companies. Of course, it sounds now like I'm saying it about all companies, which is not true at all. There's many good players in the field, but there's of course also a few rotten apples, as we say in Dutch, and yeah, it would be great if we got better collaboration with them.
We do have a few more minutes, and I wanted to open up the floor to all of you. And I think there's even a question right there. Yeah, perfect. I think you'll get a microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nice presentation. I had a question about cybersecurity, because I went to a cybersecurity conference not too long ago, and one of the researchers actually reached out to some of the scammers in Nigeria that were sending these scam emails, trying to find out, well, what was their motivation? Why were they doing this? And what he got back is that these people, they're qualified, there's no jobs, so it's the only stream of revenue that they can actually get. So if they had the option of probably doing something illicit or find a job, they would, but they can't. And so my question is, where do you find that right balance between cracking down, enforcing, punishing, and creating societies wherein it actually costs more for you to do something bad or to do illicit action than to actually behave responsibly, find a job, and live a decent life, and not having to scam people as a living, right?
Yeah, I think it was for you, Gert. So how do you change that?
I think it's an extremely good question. If I had the answer, it would be, of course, I'm law enforcement, I'm doing investigations. If, in your example, people in Nigeria cannot earn enough money legally, I don't think I can solve it as a law enforcement professional. I think it's the bigger, this is basically the whole premise of criminology. I think you've now opened up, so I'm sorry. Again, I think maybe I'm not smart enough to answer this question properly, but of course there should be enough proper opportunities in society. I cannot fully answer it properly, I think, the question. Sorry, maybe someone else wants to try.
No, if all illicit activities, energy would be used for something legal and productive, I think it would be a better world, definitely. Are there any further questions? No. Cool. Yeah, Johann, maybe a last question to you. What also here I think is quite interesting. About quantum computing, there's lots of people who basically say before quantum computing impacts blockchain technology, the financial services world will stop. Because these are older systems. What do you say to like quantum computing threat neglectors?
Quantum computing threat neglectors?
Yeah, I just invented that.
Well, just by previous example, what I said, that there's obviously a reason why this is now enabled by default. I mean the protection in normal applications. Also, there's a reason why the White House instructed the National Security Agency to research and migrate to post-quantum algorithms as soon as possible. There is a reason why arguably the most secure messenger signal on the planet has also made the switch, and I could go on all day with the examples which clearly show the direction that this is coming. There's no escape from it. As for how they are gonna disrupt or threaten established financial systems, that's a really good question. Actually, they have much more of an easier task to manage here to do the upgrade because they have a centralized decision-making system, which means if they decide to upgrade, they can upgrade and they can enforce the upgrade, as opposed to public blockchain networks where basically you would need to convince every single wallet holder that, hey, please do this, because otherwise we have a big problem here. So I think traditional finance should be fine.
Okay, well, that's at least a little bit comforting. We're coming to a close, so let me just basically sum up our interesting discussion. I think quantum computing is definitely something we should all think about. CAS should think about post-quantum migration to some extent. The main issue will be securing signing transactions rather than the hashing algorithm itself.
Just a small thing to add with the example regarding to finance, that always think about the retroactive effect. So don't consider that, okay, we signed this contract 5 years ago, it's fine because it was fine at that time, so you need to re-authenticate these digital signatures, for example. So there are processes to be done, but it can be done with 100% success ratio. The same cannot be said for blockchains. So just wanted to clarify.
Okay, cool. Cool, and then we've also heard Gert who told us that financial crime is moving on chain. It's scaling. It's not getting more complex when it comes to money laundering activities, but it's scaling massively. And there's definitely a need for further preventing financial crime rather than just detecting it. I thank you both very much. Gert, you've got the last word.
I have 7 seconds. The very last thing I want to say, if you have any super interesting leads encompassing
in the buffet,
please talk to me afterwards. We're always open to collaborate.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.